Hey there, Eric back at the naturopath. How are you all going out there? Everybody's still suffering a little bit, fortunately globally, with this COVID-19 lockdown, but I'm sure you'll find plenty to do. The main thing is to stay safe and also to not stress out. I read so many comments from people that are stressing out, I don't look at media, really. I don't look at news outlets or, turn on the TV and have constant, brain bombardment from how many people died in this country. Or it's not that I'm ignorant. I just don't need that information, because why do I need to know that all the time? It's crazy. It's only going to stress you out. Now, I've got a lot of new topics this week to cover because we've got some really good questions from people. Here's a question I've been asked many times, and it's time to do a good reply on it. How to sustain a Candida diet without sugar for several months? Well, sugar or glucose is needed for the functioning of our brain. Okay, will the brain suffer from glucose deficiency? One guy asked. And all these different questions I've rolled into one kind of video. So sugar is very important, but we've got to remember sugar can also be an enemy. If we go back historically, nobody really had sugar. Before 1900, you'd had to be literally royalty to have sugar. To buy a couple of cubes of sugar back then would have been probably a bar of gold today. It's it was so expensive that only the wealthiest people could afford sugar, well back. So what's happened? Well, sugar's become very cheap, and because it tastes nice, which I'll explain in a minute what I mean by that, everybody likes it, and it gets put into every kind of food. There are literally 75 to 80% of foods now, processed foods, that contain refined sugar or artificial sugars. Now, but you need sugar, okay? If we look at the end product of our foods, basically everything just about breaks down to sugar. Glucose is the primary fuel needed to fuel our cells. Right? Now, if we look at the brain, it's 2 to 3% of the body's weight. It uses about 20 to 25% of the calories we consume, but it uses 40% plus of the glucose we consume. So the brain really needs a lot of sugar. But there's different types of sugars, of course, but remember the end result is glucose. So if we look at honey, brown sugar, white sugar, baking sugar, that powdered stuff, what do you call it, confectionery sugar, all sugar is the same, okay? Honey is sugar, but it's a little bit different in that it's one of the only sugars that will keep for a long, long time, in its particular form without really bugs affecting it. I've seen some amazing videos, or pictures of a jar with just plain sugar or jam or whatever you want to call it, and then a jar of honey left aside for weeks and months, even years. And you come back and you can see the difference, how still the honey is viable, but the other stuff's turned really to crap. Honey is a pure form of sugar that also contains many enzymes and amino acids. It contains an awful lot of goodness. Honey was the primary sugar for people on this planet for thousands of years, until we started to discover, all sorts of other sources, and particularly how we could extract that sugar from things like beets or sugarcane. Sugar prices, of course, have crashed, and as sugar prices have crashed, so have a lot of diseases gone up, and particularly obesity has now been linked with sugar. Right? We all know that. These are sort of things I was talking about in the 70s, when they still had pasta diets were quite common. And carbohydrate diets are all the rage back then. Now it's gone the other way around. So we need sugar, but it's the quantity of sugar that we're consuming that's bad. The quantity, okay? Don't see sugar as Darth Vader. Don't see sugar as being somebody in your face with a gun or a grenade that's going to, blow you up or kill you. It's not your archetypal enemy. It's the amount of sugar that you consume. That's the killer. Now, I'm going to get comments to this video, people saying, oh my God, that guy's so crazy. Even a half a teaspoon a day will kill you. That's crap. It's the quantity, okay? I've got nothing wrong with people consuming sugar, but this has to be in pretty good condition for them to do so. And particularly, that quantity of sugar, a small amount in a diet of someone who's eating primarily vegetables, fruits, lean proteins, and the foods that we really need to be eating. When you eat that kind of food, you don't really have a need for sugar in your diet. Now, there's a light flashing ahead and it's driving me crazy. I'm just going to turn it off. Hang on, I've got an LED light that's blown here. That's better? A lot better. Right. And where was I? We were talking about sugar. Most people who are very unwell, particularly people with bad digestive problems or immune dysfunctions, high blood pressure, diabetes, many conditions, these are the people that really need to avoid sugar as much as possible, and preferably cut it out of their diet until their health is taking quite a good level. Okay, when your health really picks up, small amounts of sugar in cooking or in food, like a bit of palm sugar here or something like that, it's not going to kill you. It's not going to cause diabetes. Sugar is not the cause of diabetes, okay? There are many complicated factors that account for why a person turns diabetic, particularly genetics and a lot of other factors. So sugar is not the sole cause of so much disease, all right? It is for people who can't stop eating it. So unfortunately, the sad fact is many people eat over twice their body weight a year in sugar. Now, these are the problematic people. These are the people that are staring down the barrel of chronic sickness, disease, cancers, and many different diseases as they get older, because they can't stop the habit. All right? It's a habit. It's like any other habit. You can make or break the habit. Just like myself, I don't have a taste for sugar because I don't really eat things that contain sugar in them. And when I do, I find it quite offensive because it's too sweet. When you get used to natural sugars like I have, like berries or things like that, you find you won't really have a desire for sugar anymore. So how do you sustain the Candida diet without sugar for several months? Well, if you're watching this video now and you're in the northern hemisphere, you guys are in spring right now going into summer. Perfect opportunity now really to completely get away from sugar if you want. All right? So instead of buying Dunkin' Donuts, instead of buying ice creams and sundaes from McDonald's and things like this, I prefer that you put that kind of money into maybe a slice of pineapple or a cup of berries or maybe even a mandarin or a banana or something like that, okay? And then you're going to come back, oh my God, this guy's stupid. He's telling us to eat fruit. And we go, yeah, well, hang on. I'd rather you eat that kind of sugar than have a Dunkin' Donut. Makes sense, okay? We're going to swap one out for the other. Try and get used to having a less taste for sugar by changing what you eat, all right? So we're talking about cookies, we're talking about the Mars bars, we're talking about confectionery, ice cream, soda drinks. We're talking about all the foods laden with sugar, absolutely laden. So if you've got a very strong taste for those, and this is where the word, oh, I like the taste of that tastes nice. So when someone says that, it means it's sweet. It always means it's sweet. Okay, I've never ever heard someone say, wow, I really like the taste of that really salty dish. It tastes so good. Or, wow, that boiling hot chili, man, that tasted so great. No one talks about chili or salt like that or sour. They always talk about sweet like that. All right? So if you say to your friend, I love the taste of that, have a think of the sugar content of that food, and it's probably going to be too high. All right? If you're baking dishes with, with this COVID lockdown, because flour is sold out globally. I mean, everyone's buying flour. I think the flour prices have exceeded the prices of gold per ounce at the moment. So if you are baking, you need to look out for the kind of sugar that you put in the baking. You can most likely half or even quarter the recipe. My daughter was making some hot cross buns. She used 20% of the sugar that they recommended in the dish, and I still found it too sweet. Right? So you don't need a lot of sweet. The less sweet you're used to, the more offensive you'll find sweet in food. So swap out. First thing you do is take the sweetest foods out. They just dump them, like donuts, for example, or soda drinks. If you're watching this channel regularly and you drink soda drinks every day, I'd rather you turn off and go and watch something else, okay? Because it's probably not really the channel for you. There's not really a channel for people who love to drink fizzy drinks all the time and then moan that their health's not getting better. So these are the foods that get the chop first, are the highest sugar containing foods. Right? Once you've done that, you can start looking at the other foods that you like to eat. Okay? So maybe get a piece of paper and then write down on a sheet of paper all of the foods that you like to eat. All right? And then when you've got, say, 10, 15 foods that taste nice, according to you, you're going to put, say on a scale of 1 to 10 next to each food, which one tastes the best. And that's probably the one with the highest sugar content, most likely. And that's how you're going to work, all right? When you take one thing out of the diet, you put another thing back in. And if you can do that for 3 or 4 weeks, take the biggest crap out first and slowly work on that list, you'll find over a period of 3 to 6 months, the sugar taste will be Gomberger, you won't want sugar anymore in your diet. You won't be buying bags of sugar, all right? And when you go out with a friend, you won't be putting 3 sugars in your coffee anymore because you won't want that. It just doesn't taste good, all right? Incidentally, swap out your sugar for honey in coffee. As you know, I'm a beekeeper, so I have 2 coffees a day. I usually have a nice espresso in the morning with a nice level spoon of beautiful honey in that. All right, I really enjoy that. So, will the brain suffer from glucose deficiency? No, it won't. Okay. What's the best brain food there is? What's the best food for the brain, do you think? It's fish. All right. Researchers found out between 1.9 to about 2 million years ago, our ancestors, I'm not going to get into this creation debate, please. Let's not have videos and, comments about, all this sort of stuff. But if we look at evolutionary, what was the turning point, what made the human brain grow fast, was when fish was introduced into the diet around 1.9 million years ago in Africa. Researchers have spent an enormous amount of time researching this and found this to be factual, that when fish got introduced into the diet, the brain capacity, the brain started growing bigger and bigger. Fish is one of the best foods you can eat for upstairs. Right? So if you can get access to fresh fish 2 or 3 times a week, I think it's the archetypal protein in my mind. It's the best protein to eat. And then you're going to come back saying, oh my God, but there's mercury in it and there's PCBs and there's toxins and all this stuff. Come on. If you're really going to talk like that, okay, where's my mobile phone? Throw your mobile phone in the trash. Okay, put a plastic bag over your head and pump pure oxygen in it because you're probably breathing in crap anyway. So let's not get anal about things, all right? Now, the brain won't suffer from glucose deficiency. It will not, all right? The brain will never starve unless you eat the most ridiculous diet. The body has got an exceptional ability to extract glucose from an amazing amount of foods, all right? If you look at people who just eat an all vegan diet, for example, okay, with minimal sugar in it, they're just relying on vegetables, relying on fruits, relying on nuts and seeds. They don't need sugar in their diet. They're getting all the sugar they need from the fruits and vegetables, right? And remember, when you make a change in your diet and take the sugar out, the magical thing will happen over time. You know what it is? Your gut will improve. You're not feeding all those bad bacteria anymore. You're not feeding all those fungi anymore. You find all of a sudden your toenails will clear up. The private areas won't be so funny anymore. They won't feel all sensitive, all right? The dandruff will go away. The skin tone will improve. Lots of things get better when you take sugar out of your diet. If you don't believe me, then what I'd like you to do is to increase sugar. I want you to have 3 tablespoons of white sugar per day for the next 2 weeks, all right? Between meals, just in a glass of hot water, and then I want you to send me a message. And you know what? You're going to feel like crap. So, you don't need sugar in your diet. Your brain's perfectly capable of extracting glucose from many foods. Fish is probably, in my opinion, the best protein for the brain function. Take out the highest sugar containing foods right now out of your diet and swap it out for fruit, regardless of your gut condition, okay? Even if you're going on the Candida cleanse, even if you've got a tummy problem, fruit is light years better than lots and lots of Coca-Cola and ice cream. And if you still think that that's incorrect, you definitely don't want to look at any more of these videos, all right? I hope that gives you a little bit of food for thought, not sugar for thought. Thanks for tuning in.